What is common knowledge in your field, but if you told us, we would think you're next level smart. Bridges aren't fixed at both sides, they are traditionally pinned on one side, with two big super pins, and just rest unfixed at the other end. This helps avoid additional stress as the bridge flexes during use and expands contracts with temperature change. I do not like this. Aircraft structural engineer here. Every airplane you've ever flown on or ever will fly on has cracks in the structure all over the place. It's very common. And to add insult to injury, if an exterior crack or hole is found that could compromise the integrity of some non-critical area like the leading edge of the vertical stabilizer or some piece of engine housing, the standard procedure is to just put some fancy duct tape over it until they can get it in a maintenance hangar. Oh, and also in my personal experience, every aircraft is also probably missing about 20 or so fasteners or screws without anyone knowing. But on the bright side, so nobody freaks out, aircraft are also commonly way over-engineered with several backup structures so no one failure can down a plane without another failure somewhere else. TBH, reading this still doesn't bother me. If it were a real issue we'd have much more plane crashes. When buying roses for someone, give the head a gentle squeeze. If it's fresh it will be firm. If it's squishy, it's no good. Don't get married near Valentine's Day or Mother's Day. The flowers will be twice as expensive and twice as crappy. Lastly, florists don't jack up the prices on red roses on V-Day to mess with you. Our wholesalers raise the prices because they have to put so much energy into growing red roses that will bloom at the right time. We never really use them except V-Day and maybe Christmas. So it's really all the people out there ordering red roses that are driving up the price. I hate them personally. Red roses are like the Budweiser of flowers. Get your sweetie a crap load of tulips, or better yet a live plant, and baby's breath smells like cat pee and dirty socks. Ask for wax flower, it smells like lemons. I dislike getting flowers. I'd much rather get a house plant, not that I can keep it alive either, lol. It's actually super easy to pick most locks used on homes. I could teach a complete novice the basics in 15 minutes. It's a scary thought, but on the other hand that means more people are being law-abiding citizens and not breaking into your home. The nerves in your body responsible for conveying touch sensory information conduct a current faster than the ones that are responsible for pain signals. As a result, we believe that the reason a sore spot feels better when you rub it is because the signal from your touch beats the pain signal back to your central nervous system and thus blocks out pain. On a similar note, differences in conduction speed of nerve endings are also the reason why you sometimes cannot distinguish between a hot or cold sensation the first second you touch something painfully hot or cold. Neuronal pain pathways are faster than temperature pathways, so your body knows something is painful before it knows whether something is blazing hot or freezing. Applications with login don't actually store your password directly. If they are able to show you your password or send it by mail, it is not safe. What safe websites do instead is use a method called sorting and hashing. This means doing a one-way scrambling of your password and then save the scrambled value. When you try to log in, they take what you wrote in the password field and run it through the same scrambler. If this matches the stored password, it means you typed in the correct password. This way, if they get hacked or people get access to the database, the stored passwords are useless. Super trivial knowledge in programming and IT, but most people I've talking to about this outside work have no idea. If you're getting bit by someone, quickly push or jerk the part of you that is being bitten in the direction of the bite and pull back. The pushback expands the jaw, causing them to release for a second so you can pull yourself out of the bite. This also works if getting bit by a small animal, dog, cat, etc. too. There's a tape stronger and more resilient than duct tape that can be removed without leaving residue behind. It's called gaff or gaffer tape. It's generally only found in theater and film backstages. It's more expensive than duct, but it's also better. You can get it on Amazon. If you think duct tape is good, try speed tape. It's the stuff used to carry out temporary repairs on aircraft and racing cars. Super strong stuff. Definitely more expensive though, about £100 m. Assembly instructions are critical in every assembly manufacturing facility. You don't just put people in assembly line and expect them to do basic processes fixing a single screw and make no mistake. Assembly process involves assembly sequence, ergonomics, locations of raw materials, location of tools, etc. For example, if a person's task is fix 3 screws on a single machine, a cell phone, for example, screws must be batched by 3s so when the next machine arrives and the assembler notices a single screw left on his workstation, she would realize he missed to fix one on the previous unit. When a product arrives at the final inspection area and gets rejected for assembly mistake, for example, missing screw, missing label, scratches, wrong parts installed, it's the fault of the process engineer. You can't blame a mistake to the assembly operator. You created the process wrong, so a failure is always expected. This is what you refer to as foolproofing. You designed the process so that even a fool can't mess it up. Your article or story may be a masterpiece, but hardly a magazine or newspaper will give you one more page, unless they have something in standby to fill another 3 pages. And, if your work has 3 pages, we may drop it if an advertiser gave up buying a page. We do everything in multiples of 4. Open any stapled magazine and you will see why. Just because a language has a certain writing system doesn't mean it's related to other languages with the same writing system. Farsi, or Persian, for example, uses the Arabic script, but it's more closely related to English than Arabic. Korean used the Chinese writing system for like 1,000 years and it was ridiculously complicated until Sejong the Great got pissed off that nobody in his country could read and invented a good writing system that's still used to this day. Generally this requires a demonstration to sink in, but compared to how normal people punch or kick, you need to relax the punching or kicking limb a surprising amount. This is super common knowledge in the martial arts community, but is relatively unknown amongst people who don't do any sort of martial art. Most people think more muscle, more force, and that's not really wrong, but it leads to them using as much muscle as possible while hitting when it would be far more beneficial to use less. It makes the most sense when you think about it scientifically. Force equals mass x acceleration. So you want as much weight in your punch and as much speed in your punch to maximize both aspects of the equation. Continuing to tense your muscles during a punch slows you down, whilst being loose makes you fast. Putting your hips and legs into it makes it so that you are practically punching with your whole body moving with a punch for more mass. If you just rely on the muscles of your arm independently of your body, not only are your punches slower, they are only getting the mass of your arms. Perhaps the best example of this that most non-martial artist people will know offhand is a child's tantrum. I think most people who have dealt with this will be familiar with how a flailing limb can randomly clip you and have a surprising amount of strength. Yet almost paradoxically their actual punches are typically so weak you don't even have to actually defend yourself. When flailing, their core is moving with the limb and they are loose, so the limb is moving faster. When punching, they rely on their muscles and have less speed and effective mass. Be sure you are only flexing your muscles that you need to and when you need to. If new people actually apply this after learning it, their punches immediately hit with far more force and make a way louder sound on the pad. It's very gratifying. Just reboot it, turn it off and on again is a working solution to most technical problems. People are always surprised when it works and probably think I know this fix only because I earned my master's degree in computer related field. I tell people that 75% of computer problems can be solved simply by trying 2 things. 1. Turning it off and back on again 50%. 2. Jiggling the cables. Further 25%. Sometimes jiggling the cables can be complicated, like when my friend dropped her laptop and it could no longer find the hard drive. I had to crack it open and jiggle that cable, but it fixed it. Movies are made in a schedule so you can save as much time and budget as possible. The big scene are filmed later and the dialogue first, usually. Makes sense, I suppose. Also get to edit together the cheaper scenes first to see if the movie is turning out any good before spending on the big scenes. I study neuroscience, so everyone thinks I'm a brain surgeon or a mad scientist. But anyway, did you know that your memories are stored in specific networks of cells? I can target these memories specifically with a virus, and then force their recall through the use of a technique called optogenetics. This is exactly why people think you are a mad scientist. I'm not really part of this field, but I'm interested in it and do research it in my spare time. The Saturn V first stage could continue to operate up until approximately 6,000 components failed, obviously depending on what component it was. These are estimates, of course. Sounds pretty crazy, yet not really. There were over 3 million parts in total. Pilots can fly an aircraft from one airport to another completely in the clouds, and can line up with a runway and land without seeing anything out the window. All navigation and lining up can be done precisely using nothing but a radio. It's not really possible to torque down a set of bolts onto the top of a nuclear reactor assembly by conventional means, so instead, the head assembly is heated up while the bolt is cooled with liquid nitrogen, correspondingly expanding the reactor top and shrinking the bolts. They are then torqued into place and allowed to thermalize, resulting in something like 1/4 million foot-pounds of torque holding the assembly together. Most computer programming requires very little math or algorithmic dexterity. Most programmers probably don't know how a computer works, or how a compiler works, or how their program gets turned into stuff that does stuff on a computer. Citrus helps cut a bite of liquor when mixing drinks, almost common knowledge, but softer citrus helps with stronger liquor. For example, orange juice or pineapple juice is better for cutting tequila or vodka shots instead of lime or lemon juice. Basically, a good cocktail will have 3/4 1 ounce citrus, 1/2 3/4 oz of some sweetener, and 1/2 oz of liquor. That's a good ratio to start with if you want to look fancy. Alzheimer's is only one form of dementia. Dementia is an umbrella term. Alzheimer's is the most common diagnosed. Others include vascular, Lewy body and Korsakoff's dementia. Notably, Robin Williams had Lewy body, which they apparently only discovered after his suicide, which was seemingly the cause of his depression, or at the very least worsened it. His wife believes that Lewy body dementia essentially killed him. Musicians must pay close attention to the tactus, especially in 15th and 16th century music, or risk getting a beat off for having false accents. Also, all other conducting versus orchestral conducting. Orchestral conductors tends to put beats on upstrokes and the rest, choir and wind bands, tend to put them on downstrokes. Hard to switch between the two. I work in a metal shop. We use something called electrostatic coating to put a paint primer on our materials. They hang from metal hooks that are given a charge so a powder will be attracted to them. They are then put in an oven that chemically changes them to be painted. The paint holds extremely well and there is little waste if done correctly. I am a medicological death investigator, essentially a forensic investigator that only investigates unnatural and suspicious deaths. Once you are dead, your body starts to go through several significant changes. One of those being called autolysis results in something called purge. Essentially, it's a mixture of blood, saliva, mucus, or whatever fluids you have in your upper GI tract, stomach, lungs, etc. The result is usually a watery bloody mixture, oftentimes heavier on the blood side. Unfortunately, people often mistake this for some sort of a traumatic injury and family believe that the individual may have died in an unnatural manner, and trained law enforcement and fire medic personnel sometimes make this mistake as well. So while it can certainly look ugly and potentially traumatic criminal, all it really is the early stages of decomposition resulting in your body breaking down and pushing those various fluids out of your nose and mouth. Light moves at the speed of light through space. Duh. Resting mass like us, call it frozen energy if you want, moves at the speed of light through time. Mass with velocity moves at the speed of light at an angle between the two, hence relativity. Airlines don't raise their prices because they see you looking at a ticket in order to panic you into buying. They use a system from the 70s that requires you to take a seat out of inventory in order to see the price, and if you don't buy, the seat doesn't go back right away. So if you check the same flight on 10 different sites looking for the lowest fare, there could be 10 seats that have been taken out of their inventory, which triggers an automatic price increase. About half the time, if you just wait until the next day, the seats will go back into inventory and the price will go back down to what it originally was. Sound travels at a finite speed, at an average temperature, atmospheric pressure, and humidity. This speed is 343 meters sec. Light, on the other hand, moves at about 299,792,458 meters sec. And an electrical signal can travel at about 3/4 that, on a good day. In comparison, sound is basically standing still. So, when you're setting up microphone speakers for a live band performance, you have to take this into consideration. For instance, a drummer near the back of the stage hits a drum. The sound is picked up by the mic, run through the cable, into a preamp, into a mixing console, out another cable, into a power amp, and out of a speaker near the front of the stage, all before the actual sound of the drum has basically even moved. This means that if you don't delay the signal coming out of the speaker by a fraction of a second, the audience will actually hear 2 drum hits, one from the actual drum, and one from the speaker. Live sound is actually quite the art form, and most people with degrees in any sort of sound recording technology find work there, and it's surprisingly dangerous. Maybe not as interesting as I thought now that I have it all typed out, but it was cool to me when I learned about it. That was cool to me. Currently, all the vitamins used as additives in supplements, cosmetics, animal feed, are produced through chemical reactions generating incredible amounts of toxic waste annually. Through fermentation of genetically modified bacteria is possible to produce, currently just some, vitamins the natural way and without toxic waste. So, basically, if you see some product with natural vitamins, that means it's produced through fermentation of genetically modified bacteria. Non-arm's length transactions don't constitute a legally binding contract. Parties seeking to uphold the terms of a social agreement must prove that there was an intention to create a legally binding contract. So if you are looking to enter into a formal legally binding agreement with friends or family, it is wise to put it in writing. I am not sure about next level smart, but a lot of people seem to think that all of their earnings will be taxed at a higher rate if they make more money, when the reality is that only the amount above the next level is taxed at the higher rate. I have had a client who declined a promotion because they believed the promotion would put them in a higher tax bracket, leading to less take-home pay. Plenty of singers who are thought of as great or are highly successful actually have horrible vocal technique. That's why so many successful singers thrash their voices and need to have vocal surgeries. Many factors that have a positive effect on the perceived quality of a vocal performance, pitch, phrasing, emotive quality, have only a passing relationship with healthy vocal production. I am a full-time professional singer, and I can spend months jumping between genres and singing 30 hours a week and be fine at the end because I've spent countless hours lining up solid technique. Folks like Adele and Sam Smith are terrific artists who have issues with phonating healthfully. Guess nobody will beat Freddie Mercury then. If it's about common knowledge, then I must say that it's the volts that make the cramp, non-lethal but really uncomfortable, and amps that make the heat, cooking your organs. Also, on a side note, the human bones break at 150 nm too, the femur being the exception. Yeah, voltage on its own is really harmless. I mean, when you drag your feet over the carpet and then reach for a doorknob and get zapped, that's like 20-30 kilovolts right there. The average oil change lube technician probably doesn't know much more than you about automobiles, and he probably doesn't grease it properly or check anything more involved than the wiper blades. Source: I started my automotive career with no tools, experience, or abilities other than being able to start right away. Also, if your whatever is working, a flush is not necessary and may even be harmful. My toilet is working, so. Some thermal sites actually need to be cooled down for up to 10 minutes before they are able to be used, and after reaching that temperature they need to remain cooled. I'm a 2171 electro-optical ordnance repairer in the Marine Corps. If someone asked you to guess a number they're thinking of between 1 and 1 million, and they're willing to tell you higher or lower on you guessing incorrectly, you can find the correct answer by using binary search within about 17 attempts. Basically, always guess the midpoint. 1 guess 500k, and they say lower, which means answer is 500k. 2 guess 250k, lower. 3 Guess 125k. Lower. 4. Guess 67.5k. And so on. There are true statements which cannot be proven. Not in the sense that we currently don't have sufficient knowledge. It has been proven that there will always exist such statements, regardless of how much knowledge we collect. You can run electric computer components such as motherboards and CPUs through the dishwasher and them still be usable as long as you only use water and no soap detergent and are completely 100% dried off first. Water does not damage them as long as there is no electricity running through them. In fact, part of the manufacturing process of making these components involves water. Not if you have hard water. Bigger f-stop number equals less light. Smaller f-stop number equals more light. F5.6 allows more light than F22. Smaller shutter number means more light. Larger shutter speed means less light. F1.8 means your subject is in focus, but nothing else, while F11 or F16 will guarantee almost everything in focus. My mnemonic is to pretend f-stop is the number of things I want to be in focus. Low f-stop, low number of things in focus. The empty pronoun, it, in the sentence it's raining, what does it refer to? Not the sky, because we don't say the sky is raining, not the clouds, not the weather, not the day. The empty it doesn't replace anything. The present circumstance. If you're given instructions to give a clean catch urine sample, using Castile soap wipes, start going a bit, then pee into the cup. One look in my microscope can tell me if you followed those instructions. Squamous epithelial cells are essentially like skin cells, and those along with other junk sit in your urethra between bathroom breaks. If you start peeing in the cup right away, that junk is in the mixture and not a true representation of what is going on. A culture would generally come back as worthless because there was too much other stuff in there. If you're given the clean catch instructions, follow them. Otherwise I have to tell your nurse you need to pee again. When it hurts to pee. That's not easy and I understand that. But to find out what antibiotics can truly help your issue, I need a true midstream clean catch specimen. Also, I promise, 99% of the time, urine cups never need to be more than half full. The same formula used to calculate the time of death of a fresh corpse is also employed to determine the age of fossils and half-life of radioactive isotopes. Humans can hear from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, even if with the aging process you lose the ability to hear the highest frequencies, so you cap around 15-16 kHz. In some cases, even lower, when you're older. Low frequencies have long waves while high frequencies have shorter waves. Because of that, low frequencies need less energy to travel further and high frequencies need more energy to travel the same distance. So, that's why when you're somewhere and there's music around, you only hear the sub-basses at first. Also, if you're yelling at someone across the water, drop your pitch a little. Cargo ships have to be loaded in a specific way or they will literally crack and fall apart. This is due to the complex forces of buoyancy acting up on the hull and the mass acting down through a central point due to gravity. This is why torpedoes are aimed below the waterline. The explosion creates an air pocket and disrupts the buoyancy, thus cracking the hull. Also, sailing on a ship that was just built is a nightmare because unlike cars there is not a whole lot of prototyping and testing. The first maiden voyage is pretty much just running around putting out fires because nothing works the way it is supposed to. The same can be said for ones that have just been retrofitted or have come out of a long layup. I can speak from experience on the last one. The amygdala is the part of the brain that regulates emotions and the hippocampus is the central memory processor that responds to the amygdala when enduring anxiety by causing the person to recall certain memories. Loki love how the amygdala is shaped like a wee almond but has one of the most important functions in the human body. Nome ultramicroscopicasilica volcaniconeatico is the biggest word in Portuguese language, is a person with type of infection in the lungs caused by ingesting volcanic ashes. Horses can vomit. Also, when you see those videos of their hooves getting trimmed, it doesn't hurt them at all. It's made out of the same stuff our nails are. Horseback riding is also actually exercise. Unless you are just sitting there walking in a straight line, it's actually hard work. I regularly get sore in my legs and back just from a normal ride. There are also a crap ton of different things going on with your hands, legs, butt, and whole posture when you are riding, which makes for a bit of a mental overload. Yes, it is not as much physical exercise as going for a run or something, but holy, cantering and collection on a course for a few minutes definitely gets you breathing hard. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.